Ladies and gentlemen, our upcoming panel discussion goes straight to the heart of the modern marketing ecosystem, where data is abundant, but clarity is rare, where channels keep multiplying, but attention keeps shrinking. This interaction section is titled, We Ask You to Answer. If you could solve one challenge in the marketing business, what would it be? Let's give a big round of applause as we welcome our incredible panelists to the stage. Coming up, we have Sabina Iyengar, the CEO and founder of Integrated Growth Marketing Services. We have Giju Eldhoz, the CEO of Zcalo Inc. And then we also have Harsha Makarala, the CEO of EQ. Let's welcome them up to the stage.
All right. So, welcome everyone. I know it's first thing in the morning and we are session one. So, hopefully, we will not put everybody back to sleep. I think
Competing with breakfast, never
I,
a good idea.
I
Yeah.
know. Hopefully, everyone's had their coffee this morning. So, my name is Sabina Iyengar, and I am the founder of Integrated Growth Marketing Services. I started the company to help organizations think more holistically about growth marketing through a full funnel strategy. I go from lead generation to client relationships to customer retention. Over the past 2 years, I've built IGMS working with late stage SaaS startup companies as a fractional leader, stepping into executive environments and helping teams rethink how they approach growth marketing and demand. Now, I wanted to start with some context because marketing is going through one of the biggest shifts that we've seen. In recent months, and almost every day, you're hearing that there are tens and thousands of layoffs across tech and corporate roles, many tied to restructuring around AI. Now, 36% of CMOs are expecting the workforce reductions in the next 12 to 24 months, driven by pressure to improve efficiency and to show ROI. At the same time, nearly two-thirds of marketers say AI is already impacting how work gets done, especially in content, research, data, and execution. So, we're in a moment where expectations are higher, resources are tighter, and the definition of marketing is changing, which raises a bigger question. Are we actually evolving marketing or just doing more of the same? That's what this panel is about. And it's not just what we're changing, but what's broken. Where are we wasting our energy and what it will take to drive real impact going forward? Through my work at IGMS and conversations on my podcast, which is Who Moved My Marketing, I see this tension every day. Teams are doing more than ever, but not always driving better outcomes. And I am so excited to be on stage today with these two gentlemen. And let's give them a round of applause and get an intro from them. We'll start with Harsha.
Thank you so much, Sabina. Very nice to be here in Vegas with this community. My name is Harsha Makarala. I'm the CEO and founder of EQ. EQ is built for those sort of marketers, chief revenue officers, those folks that you're talking about. I spent 20 plus years of my career building and leading growth teams, marketing teams at early and late stage companies. And in some ways, EQ was the tool set that I wanted during that period, and that's sort of what we are trying to build. Um, we see that the number one gap that good executives, great executives, in fact, in the go-to-market space um, face is lack of confidence in their own numbers, right? The number of CMOs and CROs who've told me, look, I love my job except for when that CFO or CEO or board member comes, taps on my shoulder and says, hey, what happened with CAC last month? And we are here to remove that, right? We are here to make data and analysis accessible, comfortable, but beyond that, sort of a real strength for brilliant marketers and revenue operators who somehow had to take on the job of being data monkeys, if you pardon my language,
Sure.
for organizations large and small across the world. And all of what you just talked about, sort of where the marketing world, and the go-to-market world reinvents itself seemingly in terms of channels, tactics, all of that every 2, 3 years. Um, we believe the roadmap for how you actually navigate that starts with good information, starts with good data, and we are here to help organizations solve that particular problem.
Awesome.
Uh, my background is mostly from a product engineering, a technology background. So I'm mostly a consumer of the services that you guys provide. And the perspective that I bring in is, we work with a lot of early stage startups, right? So who are much, low in the food chain, who doesn't have that much of, marketing budget, who has an idea, who built the MVP. Now they want to take it out into the world, and due to price constraints, access constraints, a lot of times they are not able to kind of reach, your services. So that is a place where, I come from. So somebody who has done a product, implemented it, now, they have a lot of questions that needs to get answered with your services, but they don't have access. And how do they kind of do everything right? Analysis, operations, all of that, strategy, everything. So, that is where I come from. So my questions and, contributions would be mostly on that perspective.
I think that's a great perspective because I think we also lose that we do lose that perspective on a day to day, right? So our day to day ends up kind of going away from the actual, you know, as it should not, but it does a lot of times. So I'm really excited to hear your perspective on some of these questions that we have. So really why we're here and what was brought on board is, if there's one challenge in marketing, and I think there's many challenges in marketing right now, but if there's one challenge that we can fix today, what would it be? So I want to hear your perspective
Okay.
because we're from marketing, so we know what's broken on our side, but
Okay.
I'm really interested to see what do you think is broken on the marketing side and how would you fix that?
I feel there's a couple of points that you mentioned before, right? A lot of people are kind of increasing efficiency by reducing, heads and all of that. So one aspect I feel very much relevant might not be in the, on a, not for a company who's raised the seed or series, right? It could be somebody much more, much earlier in the stage who are building that product, right? For them, the biggest problem is access,
Mhm.
right? And if you see a lot of times, now by default, everyone's job is says like, I will do a better job with that. So that, now what's happening is a lot of people whom I work with uh, are trying to use because of that access problem, right? Now it's a like, two-sided, coin, right? So you have one side in which, you are now just trusting a, agentic system which is giving you some information, but you don't have the vision or, to kind of see if this is getting driven in the right way. So that access is one problem that I see a lot.
Excellent. How about your perspective?
I love the framing of the question, even, right? Like, what is the one thing? If you just change that one thing,
It,
I'd love to go home and ask my kids or wife that sort of question. What is one thing if we change, then, as though such a magic bullet exists everywhere.
I know.
Um, that said, I think like the one theme that I can point to consistently that we both hear from our customers as well as that I've seen sort of all of my through my career is, if you can get the marketing organization, marketing leader in sync with the financial operational leaders of the business to where you're all sort of part of the P&L responsibility. You're not just a cost center as a marketing organization, but you are part of the P&L. You're a driver of the P&L. Your numbers sync with what your financial counterparts or your CEO thinks. For example, you're forecasting off of the same page. You're explaining trends off of similar numbers. For me, nothing beats that alignment. And The rest of it from there, whether it is which channels, how many leads, how much are you spending, how many people are on your team, all of those kinds of things then become much more tactical operational questions.
Yep.
If you're able to get to that type of alignment at the top of the house across functions, and I believe, a lot of marketers do themselves disservice by not investing in that upfront, and not sort of, building that broad-based sort of alignment and transparency, that would help them within their org, right? I mean, among the C-suite, the CMO role, I think, is the one that changes the fastest, that has the shortest lifespan in
Yes.
any given org or something like that. And some very large part of it is because we still think about it, talk about it as though it's some kind of little voodoo dark arts corner of the organization that spends a lot of money, as opposed to sort of being the real driver of the financial success of the business. So, if there is one change I would recommend, despite tactics, channels, leads, all of that kind of thing, it would be sort of go invest the time to get on the same page and open up your books to where you have alignment on numbers with the rest of your organization.
I completely agree. So that is kind of where, and that is what I do from a growth marketing side, is because I would like to get to the customer lifetime value and really take that, outcome of revenue and bring that into marketing and actually own it as well. So every part of the business and everyone that goes into it's invited to the table, if you want to
Hmm.
say,
Hmm.
has something to do with
Hmm.
revenue and customer lifetime value. When you go to board meetings, when you're going and trying to justify, marketing seems to be kind of like a side conversation and say, okay, well, now let's get marketing in there, but then we'll have the real conversation in a little bit, right?
Yep.
And that's when sales comes in, that's when finance comes in, that's when the rest of the organizations come in. Even HR is being invited now to the table. I feel like marketing is still kind of left on the side, the child's table at Thanksgiving dinner, right? Like we're not really on there.
I
So,
actually have a follow-up question
yes,
because you raised the main point here as alignment, right? So
correct.
alignment is problem. So like now that I see both the sides of the stuff, what is that need to be done from, a founder standpoint or other operations standpoint to have this alignment kind of added?
Well, I think there's this level of ownership
Uh-huh.
and accountability, right? So, at this moment, or usually what it comes out to be, is that marketing, how many leads can you bring in?
Mm-hmm.
What is the pipeline generation? And
Okay.
it stops at that.
Okay. So you would want visibility more to the revenue that it generates. Is that right?
Correct, correct.
Okay.
So we want to be in partnership. It's always a sales marketing marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like sales is always the more, it, it's the one that takes the responsibility for the revenue.
Mm-hmm.
But marketing is the first one to be blamed if revenue doesn't come into play, right?
Okay.
And why is that? It is because we are just constantly been told that, well, you didn't bring us the right leads. You didn't bring us the right people to talk to. So
Uh-huh.
how can we make money or how can we sell the product?
Okay.
We are working, marketing is in a very unique position, in my opinion, and this is the reason why I went into marketing, was because I we work with product,
Mm-hmm.
we work with sales, we work with customer success, we work with everybody in the organization, but we're only responsible for bringing in leads, essentially.
Okay.
And that's the alignment that needs to change. So marketing is aligned, marketing plays with everybody.
Mm-hmm. But you don't have the visibility to data and metrics or
Exactly. Harsha, what would you?
Yeah, I think there's a very large part of it is which is visibility, right? Too often, real financial data is poorly understood and poorly connected to
mm-hmm.
marketing activity, right?
Okay.
To Sabina's point, sort of, hey, if I pick a sales team, every head on that sales team has a revenue number associated with them. How much do they bring in sales? What is their target? What are they pacing to it? To all of that kind of thing, right? Similar levels of accountability often do not exist for marketing functions where you're carrying the load of the sort of
Mm-hmm.
financial sort of output of the business, if you will. And this is a place where I have enough bone to pick with, the other leaders as with marketers. Marketers tend to shroud themselves in, mysterious things like attribution models and view through and click through and channels and, all of that kind of thing, as opposed to really talking about, hey, look, like, here are my three sets of activity, and here is how I intend to drive the business from there, if you will. So there's enough to go around in terms of why that alignment doesn't exist. It's not always that sort of it's being done to us. We do this to ourselves as marketers a fair bit as well. But it's the accountability and the visibility both, to
Okay.
where you are seen as, and you're owning up to being a driver of the business, right? Good marketing orgs in some ways like can be tremendous sources of intelligence. In marketing orgs that I've worked in, tend to be at the very heartbeat of the organization in terms of knowing who the customer is and why are they good customers, why are they bad customers, what's actually working, what products are actually selling, what parts of the product are,
What features?
what
Yeah,
features are actually
customers
driving the
loving.
most
Yeah.
value, for example. um, and again, the conversation is sort of, hey, how do I cut budgets, or why do I, that kind of thing. From there to shifting the conversation to where your CFO can come to you and say, hey, can you do more, right? Can you spend more actually, because I need more revenue, right? Like, I have the transparency from you to where I know if I put $1 and I'm going to get, $1.50 back. Um, that accountability and that alignment are critical for any marketing function to succeed. And if you're a small, early size
Mhm.
organization, like you talked about, please invest in that now.
Yes.
Because, if that problem is not solved now, it's sort of the two lines sort of diverging. By the time you're 100% org, it becomes even harder to build that alignment, if you
Well,
will.
the foundation isn't built,
Shaky,
and
yep,
then things need to be optimized,
totally,
things need to be changed,
totally,
things need to
totally,
be, and they're like, well, we didn't do it that way before, so now let's just,
totally,
let's continue down this path.
totally,
So just a follow up to that, right? Because we briefly touched upon it. Because a lot of times people try to kind of spend on sales much before than the marketing part. So you see sales kind of overpowering marketing or taking the credit of a lot of things that you guys do. Is that something that you
Well, I don't think I think the real thing is sales brings in the money, right? So who signs the dotted line on the
feel?
contract or the customer? It's sales.
Yeah.
So they're the reason why they bring in the glory, and they're the ones that
Mhm.
get all of the, the
Yeah.
cheering in the organization. Marketing is kind of behind the scenes. Now, I think where we can kind of come in, or what we need to do is, I truly believe in more solution based marketing, whereas we are, why does a company exist? It exists because, or a product or a service. It's because that product or service actually hits a pain point for a customer,
Exactly.
right? Now, what ends up happening is that it's not about that pain point or that story that we can tell, that we can say, hey, this is how we can help you and make your business better.
Mhm.
And this is not just from B2B, even from B2C, but this is very much B2B focused.
Mhm.
Um, Sales, what they say is, can you write me this data sheet? Can you get me this sales sheet? Can we go to this, conference? I want to go to this trade show. And the story gets lost in there of how do we help the customer.
Okay.
And so we're constantly battling this. Product is saying, can you just tell our features,
Mhm.
right? Product is saying, we have come up with these great features, 1, 2, and 3. We went out with these releases this past month. Can you please focus on that?
Mhm.
Sales is saying, we just need to get out there and sell it. Marketing is saying, but how does this help the customer, right? How do we help our customers so that they're just not a one and done type of thing? We want to build that relationship. We want to build that retention.
Mhm.
And again, it comes back to that customer lifetime value, which then brings in, how does marketing actually bring in the money? And how do we actually impact that bottom line,
Okay.
if that makes sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Harsha, do you?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. Again, I love that word credit, right? Like, which part of the organization, so much the amount of energy that we all seem to lose in like whose name is on the thing and who gets credit and that kind of thing. Same thing happens to marketers within their own sort of, purview or domain as well. Like, hey, which channel should get credit? And should you invest in,
Yeah.
improving your website, or should you invest in spending dollars buying leads? I I just, for once, can we please get out of that mode? Can we all just get along, right?
Yeah.
In our current environment, I feel like in every facet, that's what we need to say. But, it is less for me about credit. It is more in, for me, the universal language of any business, the way you talked about sort of customer pain points and things like that, is the financials of the business. A business exists largely to make money. And how do you translate all activity, whether it is marketing activity, sales activity, product activity? How do you translate all of that to sort of how the financials of a business work? And from there, they're all investment choices. And to the extent the marketers can put themselves up to saying, I am as much an investment choice as an investment in a product is, or as an investment in sales is. And, let's
Mhm.
sort of as a team sit down and make the right decisions as to where we go. The number of times in my career where I've said, look, don't give me that extra $100,000. Use that to hire blah, right, for another person for the sales team, or like fix those product bugs that are killing us in terms of what's happening with with conversion rate, or that type of stuff. I think like we need to move away from this notion of like credit to this notion of like investment and output, inputs and outputs, and how do we as marketers play a role in being a part of that equation for an organization.
So with that said, I have another question, and this wasn't on our list, but you know, marketing teams are literally being, removed from the organization because AI can now do our
AI will do
job,
everything. Yep.
right? I mean, I've tried it. I've done, hey, can you kind of put a marketing strategy together for me? And I've done all the right prompts and stuff, but it doesn't come out 100%. Do you believe that our jobs can really be, is that a challenge now? I feel like it is a challenge, is to now not just prove our jobs and prove our, hey, we need to have a seat at the table. We need to exist within the company because
Yes.
AI, we can just put it in AI. AI will, you
Yeah.
know, Chat GPT, Claude, Perplexity, all these, they'll just put our marketing strategy together. They'll somehow exit. I don't know how they will execute, but they will somehow execute it and
Totally.
everything will happen, right?
Totally.
Magically.
Totally.
I feel, I'm part of I'm in the Bay Area, so I see a lot of
You
this
live this. Yep.
all the time. I live this on a day to day. And they're like, "Oh, you're in marketing." Oh, well,
Did you know this thing came out?
yeah, I know. Like in the sense that aren't you afraid that your
Yes.
job's
Claude.
going away? And I'm like, no,
Exactly right.
not really. I
Every
feel like,
CMO, every CMO of the future will be named Claude, right?
yes, exactly. Exactly. But I'm interested to hear, as actually from a product perspective,
Mhm.
hearing this, like saying, okay, your product is coming out and now you're kind of, your marketing department is now maybe one person
Not even.
and maybe not even one person, right? So now you're almost expected, or somebody in the organization is expected to do marketing for that and then go straight to sales.
So I'll tell you the real thing on the ground, right? Right now, this particular thing of AI taking over jobs. Last week, Oracle had a 30,000 layoff. Before that, Amazon had, Meta
Yep.
had, all of that, right? So this is a reality. We live in that. Now, all these people who are getting laid off, you know, they're out there, right? And uh, you know, tech has its fair share of problems there as well, right? Engineers are getting laid off in big numbers, and the main reason is AI is able to do a job which is kind of uh, you know um, technical. You know, it's able to kind of simulate intelligence, right? That's what's happening. Now the part is that it can be given a context to operate in a certain way, right? So you can give a prompt or a whatever to kind of make it behave in a certain way. It can come up with whatever knowledge that is out there, and of course, if you it can mix and match different things together to kind of give something out. I'll go back to my first point that I made. A lot of times these decisions are happening because of problems of access. Because if a lot of times, maybe a three-member team is working on an idea. They build something, and now they are to launch it. Now, uh, they don't even know that they need marketing, right? They look at how do I get it? They search for it. Maybe ask Claude or GPT. They say like, hey, do market like do Google market, like Google ads, LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads, all of this it will say. And you have website, you do promotion on channels, influencer marketing. You get all of this. Then um, then they are from the because and they are also builders and executors. They think like, okay, this is what I need to do. I'll go do. And because all of these guys have a technology background, they will go check Google Ads, right? They can sign up on Google Ads, like LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, wherever. The problem that happens is the moment that they reach content. That was the time till this time people were getting stuck. I'm talking purely from that particular perspective. Okay. So now I have to come up with messages, themes, assets, all of that. Now, when that thing comes so far, people are just getting stuck there. People are like, okay, now what do I do now? Because this is asking for a message at 30-word message, which can communicate this. Now, now what has AI enabled is I put a screenshot of this. I was like, this is my product. Give me something. Till this time, they were getting stuck there because that was not their core expertise. Now they are given with something which they are able to push through, but still no one knows whether it will work. But that barrier of transformation from that point to next has happened, and because we worked with a lot of these products, which need to kind of run these campaigns on Insta, Facebook, all of that. We ourselves have created one product which does a part of this, right? Making use of all these generative AI tools. It's called Lucy. So generative AI tools to uh, kind of understand your product, and with whatever knowledge that we have, it will get a theme generated. From that theme, it can generate asset, story, and all of that. The part what I want to tell is we are still experimenting on it. It takes care of certain operational aspect, like scheduling posts for it, all of that,
Yeah.
uh, creating some consistent line of story. But one place I'll be honest with that we don't know is from a when an actual human person works on it with your tons of experience, what is the value that you're bringing in? How you change the narrative? How you kind of that particular thing is never there on the table to measure,
Sure.
right? And a lot of times people doesn't even have the access to understand it,
Yeah.
and because it comes with a cost. And all of these guys before their funding, you're trying to kind of because now the funding scenario is also like what is the traction that you have, for which you need to have customers. For you need to have customers, you need to have marketing. So they would have done something might be in a completely different way, and they don't have that uh, visibility or knowledge. That is a scenario that we see.
I would disagree that they say that they need marketing for that. They just need sales, is what they say. You need customers, we'll
Yeah,
just get sales, right? You don't need marketing for that.
yeah,
We disagree, but that's what
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
most people say.
That is the information that everyone gets.
Yes.
But for anything to scale, right? To reach the numbers, because we see with a lot of B2B, B2C, all of that, right? So marketing is very relevant there. Now, just to touch upon that other point that you said, what we see is a lot of these people who are getting kind of moved out of the industry, they're trying to solve new problems, right? So this particular set of people who are a small company trying to come and solve a niche problem, that kind of opportunity is going to come a lot. So if there is a way that we can, those kind of people can have access to your way, the fractional part that you're saying,
Right.
those kind of things would be of great value. That is
Well, I think it was yesterday that I heard, and I don't remember the actual numbers, but they said that there was a huge layoff that was announced earlier this week, and like a record number of LLCs were also created
yeah.
literally the next day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of that. And it's because
Yeah,
of this, right? Because everyone, what
exactly.
do we do? We're not going to get a job. So we have to do something. So
Yeah.
let's create something of our own.
Hmm.
And now you're going to have this influx of
People
fraction
needing your services. Yeah.
people, yeah. But then who do you pick? And then
Yeah,
where do
exactly.
you go? And how do you do that? So, but I would love your perspective on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if you think about it, sort of we've gone through waves again with this stuff, right? And 25 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever that was, when you lived in your two channels, maybe you had sort of, some kind of broadcast channel, and then, you had people calling in or something like that, for example. What a marketing employee looked like was entirely different than, as channels proliferated and, more of these tech platforms came into being and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. For example, skill sets widened, not the sheer number of marketing skill sets that were needed to run a marketing shop sort of widened with that as well. Who'd heard of like CR, conversion rate optimizers and, A/B testers and, you
Yep.
know, um, uh, media buyers, in platform media buyers, who'd heard of any of those skill sets 30 years ago, for example, right? So, we've gone through we go through these waves. I think we are on a wave now where some of that hyper specialization is going to shrink. We are going back to the era, I think, of the general marketer with the tool sets to be able to do more and to have a broader sort of impact. For example, I think that's what these tools will necessarily let us do, right?
Yep.
And your scope grows as well. If, a marketing analyst or a marketing strategist in my previous teams could manage, X dollars worth of spend at any point in time and do it comfortably, profitably. Today, that number is probably 2x or 3x just because the tools allow them to do a lot more, for example. I don't know that I buy the apocalyptic, like all marketers are going away, but I do think there is a shift in what the skill sets of the future are going to look like. The one thing I'll say, as well as a word of caution to anyone who's thinking about sort of large scale eliminating marketing departments and things like that is, think about the fact that like where does most of your marketing happen, right? Who are you paying for most of your marketing? You're paying Google, Facebook, I don't know, pick
Seven.
your random aggregator, all of that kind of thing. These are large for-profit companies. Their interest is in taking as much of your money as possible
Yep.
as well. So not having gatekeepers who, watch what is happening, what activity is happening, and what you're paying these platforms for, in terms of sort of output activity, all of that kind of thing, is sort of at your peril.
Yeah.
No offense meant, but Messrs. Pichai and Zuckerberg are not your best
Best
buddies,
friends.
right? Like they're there to take your money as much as possible as well. So, um, just make sure you're building safety for yourself, in that sense as well. But yes, I think we are going to an era where there is more generalization afoot than the kind of hyper specialization that marketing jobs went through in the last 10, 20 years, if you will.
I think, I do have to say AI has made my life a lot easier. So, I specialize more on the strategy side, but because I have my own, agency, I I have to learn how to do content and write and do those kinds of things. And I'm not a writer by any means. And I may not have a content writer that can help me right off the bat. So
Mhm.
in order for me to make things go faster, yes, I do take AI, but is it going to replace me? Probably not. So I completely agree with you on that, right? Like I don't think it's a doom and gloom thing, even though that's what it seems to be coming out to. Um, so with the foundation of this misalignment that we're talking about, throughout the organization, if we had to really go more in depth into that from your perspective, right? Now you're also a CEO, you're also a marketer, you're also all of this. So you've kind of seen it in different aspects of the business. If you were a CEO giving advice to another CEO, what would it be? If you were a marketer to another marketer, what advice would you give? And then from a, I would say like a product perspective, because we have a product, I would love to get your ideas on that. And then I'll frame the same question to you, even though you're on the product side, just kind of getting an idea of how you think this might actually work.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're my message to most CEOs would be a repeat of the theme that I talked about originally, right? How do you, if you're investing in marketing, make sure you are investing in it with it as a P&L driver and not as a cost center, right? If you think you're investing in marketing because you need more leads for your sales team, don't, right? Sort of,
Yeah.
help, think about sort of what you're building in terms of fundamentals, think about hiring or growing a marketing function more in that light, as a P&L driver, as opposed to sort of as a cost center, if you will. Spend the time as a CEO understanding, you know, how and where that activity occurs, right? If as a CEO, your time, there's rules of thumb for this. Most CEOs should spend X amount of their time on sales and that kind of thing. As an early stage CEO, I spend a very large amount of my time on sales. Most CEOs have just sort of their percentage for what that is. A lot equivalent percentages that way of your attention towards your marketing function, as not. That's what I would tell most CEOs. If I'm talking to CMOs, I would, of course, tell them like, hey, participate, go, be an active participant in all those conversations. But I think the other message I would give you is, really, really look to diversify, right? These Thanks to AI, the days when sort of you could build specialization. I know shops that sort of ran entire P&Ls off of Facebook or Google or whatever that is, for example, or just organic. The days of that type of hyper specialization are going away.
Yeah.
That type of competitive advantage is going away. So knowing how to diversify and knowing how to build that general skill set on your team that can use the prevalent tools, the AI tools and other data tools that are available today, to where you can maximize your ability to participate in every one of those auctions. Grow that skill set is what I would tell most marketers. And then the one last thing, you didn't ask for this, but I'll say anyways, is
Yeah.
if you're a 21, 22-year-old fresh out of college trying to break into marketing, that kind of thing, for example, maybe don't. But if you're bent on it, like, learn, you know um, before you learn the SEO or copy content, whatever it is, for example, I would invite you to learn sort of good financial management and strategy, and how do you speak the right language to a financial analyst, or or an operations person or a salesperson or your CEO. I would invest in that as much being a marketer as I would invest in learning SEO or Google Analytics or marketing on Meta or writing copy or whatever that is, for example.
Awesome.
So just to kind of, because I had this particular question, because now for a young professional who's going to be in this particular marketing domain, right? Is such a conversation possible for at that level? Because that for that they need certain amount of knowledge, right? Now, how would they reach that point? Because all of you guys, maybe you all started your career from that point, and you were nurtured through to kind of reach the position where you are.
Totally,
Because we see that in tech also.
Hmm.
totally.
But a a professional to kind of just to have a strategy level conversation with a top professional is very not possible.
Uh,
Like they won't even take them serious, right?
Correct. Correct.
So how do they
I,
reach that
I think
point?
my point is more sort of to build understanding of those types of things, right? So I think, if you are today, if you are trying to break into pretty much any function, to be honest, I'm not just
Yeah,
picking
yeah,
on
we see that
marketing,
in tech. We
in
clearly,
technology as well,
yeah.
right? Like, my first job in life was in technology. I'd never worked in a spreadsheet, never opened a never built a PowerPoint deck before. I'd, never written a proper none of that kind of thing. I knew how to write code and build systems. um, I don't think that's enough today. I would like massively fail if I were starting my career today, right? What my point is more that sort of you should think of it as though you're entering business, not entering marketing or tech or whatever that is, for example. I think like spending the time learning how P&Ls work, spending the time learning how, operations work, spending the time learning how sort of sales work and sales tools work. Again, those are all learnable skills, hard skills, even without having sort of if you end up in a great place, that sort of teaches you all of this. Great. I got lucky in that I ended up at a place like that. But even if not, spending the time to build your general business skill set along with sort of your marketing or tech or whatever it is, your specific entry level skill set, that's more what I'm talking about. Even that, like, is learnable. There is now, again, thanks to these same platforms,
Exactly.
there's
Yes,
like a lot of available content. There's a lot of ways in which you practice, simulate, build for yourself. That's more what I'm talking about
it's
than
interesting
anything
that
else.
you say that because my degree is actually management information systems.
Sure,
So that was my bachelor's, and I do have my MBA. In MBA, you do learn the financials, you do learn
sure,
a lot about that, right?
sure.
Because you're literally learning about the business and the business impact. I got lucky that in my bachelor's or, with my management information systems, I learned how to code and I also learned the economics behind,
Mhm.
the technology, right? So I also feel like I completely agree with you. I got lucky because that's kind of the degree that I chose. Um, and it was a brand new degree at the time when I was going back to school. It was something that a lot of people didn't hear about. Even my parents were like, what is that? What are you going to do with that? And I'm like, I don't know. It just sounded cool, right? Like that's kind of where I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be an engineer. I don't want to be a lawyer. So I'm going to go into this. This sounds cool, right? They were very concerned for a while. Um, but it did teach me all of that.
Hmm.
And that is why I feel like I have a different perspective on a lot of this because it just happened organically for me. So if I'm talking to, and I actually do mentor new marketing, grads and folks that are trying to get into the marketing um, discipline, is I do tell them that. I said, don't just think about it from a creative,
Hmm.
oh, you're creative or you can only do the artsy part or, there is an art and a science behind what you're doing. And that science comes with, you know, the actual business understanding.
Same, by the way, for the other side, right? If you're just a
Yep.
hardcore quant jock or a
Yep.
technician or something like that, that's not enough either, right? Go spend the time learning, what the supposed dark arts on the other side are, right? I think we are more and more, for people looking to make a career in quote unquote business, more and more looking at the general business operator who knows how to play across the spectrum, than in the kind of hyper specialization, functional hyper specialization that, in some ways the millennials got used to. But, but again, I'm not going to name generations and that kind of thing. But I think that's I think the lesson that I would take away.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm curious, with the folks that are here, do you guys see something similar? Are you seeing something completely different? All of us are coming from different areas. Do you have anything for us that you think that we haven't covered or that we haven't, touched upon at this point? Yes. Y-
AI, and there's a lot of anxiety around it. It's impacting every area, every marketing, from CXO to tech to health to education, everything.
Yep.
So the comment was made that AI has come to do the things that machines do so that humans can get back to the things that humans do. And I thought that was a very profound statement. And what I want to ask is, what are your thoughts on that?
Do you want to take that first?
Yeah, so like I will go to what Harsha said sometime about business, right? What is important is money, financials, right? So for this till this time, there used to be a corpus of, you know, like monetary aspect, which used to trickle down for the contributions that you made to an organization or the value that you provided there. Now, what we see is that opportunity is getting lost. Right now, if humans are supposed to do what they are supposed to do, and machines, the AI is taking over the job that machines are supposed to do. How do you answer the question right now? How was it going to kind of? How are you going to pay your bills? Right? It's as simple as that. You, I feel that is a I don't have an answer to that in terms of how you're going to solve it, but that is a reality I'm very much concerned about, because this particular, we have next amount of population, right? Now, every time when a technology leap happened, if you look at, starting from industrial revolution, every time the the income and the disparity has widened always. So this is again, I think this is again going to do that, because the people who have large amount of capital, they will deploy that on systems and tools, which will eventually kind of take away your time. Ultimately, time is what gets
Mm-hmm.
monetized, right? So there need to be systems and guardrails. So that is something that I'm thinking will evolve as a part of it, where there is a democratization of uh, new wealth. Now that new wealth could be something like, so if you, this is one thought I had. Why are you paying Meta or Google? Why are you paying Meta or Google? Right? It is to buy time of attention span of maybe a 10-second or 8-second of somebody like, maybe that person sitting there, right? Now that time is owned by that person, which Google or Meta enables through their platform, which somebody else who's a potential somebody has to, somebody want to sell something. So now there is no way that particular a part of that money is going to the viewer. In fact, he's selling, Google sold his time, right? There is nothing that is going there, right? So same goes with a marketer right now. You guys spend your intelligence on building a creative,
Mm-hmm.
right? A messaging, a strategy. The strategy is put to work for maybe years. You just got paid for the time that it was used, but it is your intelligence that is getting consumed over a period of by an AI. Now, how did AI come to know about all of this? It learned from existing system. It learned from the copies that you wrote. It learned from the code that I wrote, right? That's how AI is able to do that. Now it is replacing me. It is able to do that, and maybe big corporations are able to generate money through different channels. How is that going to benefit me or you or that particular viewer whose time actually got spent? So I expect that there will be new wealth, strategies that will come around. That is the only way I think it can get solved, right? So yeah,
I think we're at time.
I think we're
perfect.
running out of time, but
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys are available, but we can
Absolutely.
definitely continue the conversation after. I think we're being asked to
oh,
wrap this up. Um, you know,
oh,
Yep.
sure.
yeah,
Great question.
Exactly. That was the
that
point I
is
was also
that
making.
is the question, and I think that that has happened. I mean, if you think about it, and I can say this pretty quickly, is when the phones came out or when laptops came out or all this new technology was that was supposed to make our life easier and more efficient so that we could spend more time doing the things that we love to do. And I feel like it has taken actually more time away from us, and I feel like AI is going to do the exact same thing, and you're seeing that. So exactly what you said, we're not going to get paid at the higher rate. We are going to get paid at an even lower rate because AI is going to be doing our job. So they're not going to pay us at the current rate. They're actually going to pay us at the lower rate.
And the only way out is to get new economics to come up.
Yes.
Yeah. That is the reality that we are.
I don't think of it that way. I think of it more from the lottery side. I think let's just all win the lottery or actually win money here at Vegas, and then we'll all be golden that way. But
Mhm.
do you want to
Uh,
say some final thoughts?
won't even touch that.
Yeah.
Won't even touch that. But I think that's a real question. I think, but I trust that sort of we'll all figure it out. We always have. So,
That's why we're all here together today, right? And for this week is to have those kinds of discussions. So, well, thank you for 2.0 for having us on stage and having this conversation. If there's anything else, please connect with me or any of us on LinkedIn, and we would be happy to continue the conversation that way as well. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all.
Thank you.